Director General, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, is also with us in the room. Of the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria is also in the room. Thank you very much for celebrating. Representative from PropCom Plus. I hope I got that right. Please let's celebrate him. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Ensure transparent supply chain from farm to export in partnership with government and agencies that are also working together for the same purpose. Our sustainability program focus on farmers' empowerment, improving livelihood through training, fair trade practices, and climate-smart agriculture. May I, at this point, wanted to make everything brief, say that we pledge to work collaboratively with development partners, with policymakers, and the private sector to secure a competitive and environmentally responsible future for the Nigeria's cocoa sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tulip Cocoa, Dr. Some very key organizations, I must mention Tulip Cocoa, if we get to the next item on the agenda. We have joining us the Director General and CEO of Forestry Research. You know what to say, partnership is a fertilizer of progress.
And today's roundtable is more than a high-level dialogue. It's a call to action, a platform to align national ambition with global standards, and a crucial step in ensuring the resilience, sustainability, and competitiveness of our cocoa value chain. The EU deforestation regulation is reshaping the way agricultural commodities are traded globally. But beyond that, Nigeria and this administration is at the forefront of climate change and climate justice, and what is important to us and the use of our land for sustainability. So without even external prodding, this is something that is Nigeria first, as Mr. President has put it, always Nigeria first initiative. So we're thinking first and then joining the rest of the world to see how we're using our resources for the betterment of everybody. So for Nigeria, Africa's fourth largest cocoa exporter, it's both a formidable challenge and a transformative opportunity. With the EU accounting for over 60% of our cocoa exports, compliance is not optional. It is an economic, environmental, and developmental imperative. And importantly, we have to support our domestic farmers and investors who are in this space. So I know that the Cocoa Association must be here and have visited me in the past, and we promised. And while we started discussions on this initiative at NEPC, we also came together to look at how we would make sure that it's booming, it's doing well, and we want you to do more. I gave some targets, and I said, this is what we want to see. Foreign exchange earners, job creation, all the things that will make sure that we hit our $1 trillion economy mark, the priority that we've given to food sovereignty and to making sure that we accelerate diversification of our non-oil exports under item number 7 out of the Renewed Hope agenda. So I commend the Office of the Vice President, the EU partners, cocoa producing states, development partners, and private sector stakeholders for convening this timely engagement. And the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment recognizes that the trade policy must evolve alongside global sustainability standards. And so as you go into your technical discussions and the output that would come, just please let me recognize Madam Hajara. Where is she? What are you doing back there? You must come and sit here. Once I get up, she's sitting here. So she's representing me and she's representing the ministry, and we're 110% committed to the cocoa sector in its entirety and to making sure that Nigerian cocoa farmers and producers and investors are able to meet their obligations under the EU, under the AFCFTA, export across the world, and make that money for Nigeria. Thank you.
That applause can be better placed. Did you hear her say 110%?
Yeah. Just a few more recognitions. Quick.
I reminisces a little bit, like the old people like me do. 1989, I'm in the University of Leuven in Belgium. I was doing my postgraduate studies. I was there with a scholarship. I'm a Greek national. I had finished the School of Agriculture, initially in Greece, in the area of agricultural engineering and land reclamation. And I got a scholarship for hydraulic engineering in the University of Leuven. So we are there, myself, a colleague from Ethiopia, a colleague from Ghana, a colleague from South Korea, and a colleague from Brazil. I remember this moment. We have this huge screen full of fingerprints. Why? We were doing remote sensing. We were analyzing satellite images, and we were arguing there about canopy, about rainfall data, about which layers we'll put in order to explore irrigation infrastructure, transport infrastructure, marketing infrastructure, about soil fertility, you name it. Behind us, there was a processing room. The processing room was an entire room. That was the processing capabilities of that time. An entire room now, something that we have in our mobile phone, it was an entire room. I even remember the software, it was I2S. Dr. Kingsley told me that he had parallel, but he's a much younger and more promising personality, that he was in the University of Ghent, also in Belgium. Anyhow, fingerprints everywhere, 5 people caring about something that they saw, a shared universal good. We were not representing our countries, we were not representing our ethnic groups, we were not representing any interest other than the joint, how can I say, motivation to see a better tomorrow. Now, a little bit later, in '93, I was part of a team in the European Commission that started working on guidelines on the sustainable management of the tropical forests. I'm saying that to dispel any idea that the European Union has woken up suddenly in 2025, speaking about conformity and compliance. It's something that has been a major concern since now more than 30 years. Then I leave from there and I'm in Malawi, and I'm in agricultural research stations with stratospheric science of African scientists of stratospheric knowledge, the best of the best, doing demonstration plots, going through data, doing fertilizer trials, putting together seed nurseries, waiting for the germination.
To have you in our midst, and as our team will play us just a little music, and of course what
of the National Task Force on EUDR Compliance. Please, another round of applause for her.
Adeniji, GMD CEO of Starlink Global and Ideal Limited is also.
There goes a round of applause for him. And Richard Noderman
engaged in another event. Once she's through, she will come here to also lay her support to carry through the message that the outcome of this dialogue, this roundtable, so that every nook and cranny, every village, every farming community in the Southwest will understand the challenges and the opportunities that this presents, and the backing of the federal government of Nigeria at the center of government, the presidency, the state house. So it's at the core of our agenda to drive greener and a more prosperous Nigeria. At the heart of today's discussion is the EUDR, which prohibits the import of cocoa and other commodities linked to deforestation after it will kick in from next year, January, so by the end of this year. So it requires traceability, due diligence, and proof of deforestation-free supply chain, reinforcing environmental stewardship. That's why we brought in the agency with the requisite statutory mandate as the custodian of satellite imageries, all georeference data in the country. EU, the charge defer, the highest level of the EU representation in Nigeria and ECOWAS is here. The charge defer, the person in charge of the embassy. We have NADA here. We have the Milky Way, the commercial arm. So the legal framework for compliance on the deforestation, this thing, we have them. After this thing, we'll expand the engagement framework to include them, so that everything you will need for us to meet this requirement, this regulation, that will be done. It requires traceability, due diligence, and proof of deforestation-free supply chain, reinforcing our commitment for environmental stewardship. The EUDR aligns with Nigeria Green Economy Agenda, advancing our goals to combat climate change, preserve biodiversity, and build resilient agricultural systems that are adaptable to climate change and enhances environmental performance improvement of our farming systems. It also drives innovation in traceability technologies such as blockchain and satellite mapping, like I stated earlier. That's why, in fact, to know how important this is to the federal government of Nigeria, the DG of NASDA had another engagement, but he had to cancel it. He had been here, so that the EU will see the commitment of Nigeria, that is not just the private sector alone driving it. You have that commitment from the federal government, from the entity with the statutory power, the statutory mandate to interface, to document and to transmit our compliance in a legal way, standing as a legal framework with that, in collaboration with the National Task Force on EUDR. You also see all of them are here. While enabling stronger farmer support program that promotes sustainable practices and higher yields without encroaching in forests. That is why also we have the community engagement assistance, senior special assistance to the president within the cocoa growing regions, Southeast, South, and Southwest. South have been holding her. She also has another very pressing engagement. Very soon she will leave. But be rest assured, the EU delegation here, that the message beyond the farmers, at the community level, at the household level, at the religious, Nigeria is a religious society, that this information will crystallize down to everybody that is one way or the other connected to the cocoa ecosystem in Nigeria, from the local ward chairman, the local government people, the traditional rulers, the pastors in the farming communities, who will help to, beyond the engagement from government and farmers, help to also further strengthen, reinforce the importance of this compliance to this regulation to the farmers, because at the end of the day, the farmers are the people that will make or mar our compliance to the regulations. Cocoa production in Nigeria supports over 300,000 smallholder farmers, which produces approximately 80% of Nigeria's output and contributes roughly to 6% of the global supply. In the 2023-2024 season, Africa produced 3.151 million metric tons of cocoa, with Nigeria accounting for around 320,000 tons. And we are aiming to increase production to beyond 500,000 tons in the 2025 farming season. That is why the president, this gathering is supposed to be at the ministerial level, but the president has elevated the importance, just like the MC had stated, all crops of importance that fits into the core, the heart of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic diversification agenda. It has mandated that we elevate the discourse at the highest level of government, which in Nigeria is the presidency. So how do we intend to increase production to beyond 500,000 tons in this 2025? Is through targeted intervention, and that is why during the panel section we will discuss all the interventions where the federal government has to plug in, where the farmers has to plug in, where the civil society organization has to plug in, where the EU has to come in. So these figures are not only underscores the scale of opportunity, but also the urgency to explore and invest in cocoa production, compliant EUDR compliant cocoa production in Nigeria, so that more and more of our farmers will be uplifted, will improve our reputation and access to market within the EU market, and also maintain our position and increase it. However, we must also confront the realities. While progress has been made, more needs to be done to establish effective compliance mechanism. This underscores the importance of extensive engagements, which had been from time to time the National Task Force, the working group, they have been meeting with EU, but to further enhance and further strengthen it, to let EU know that we are serious as a nation to meet up this regulation. We are also expanding the extensiveness of the engagement to this multi-stakeholder, multi-ministerial. We have people from agri, trade and investment, environment, science and technology, communications, all the entities that will play one role or the other in the official documentation and legal compliance of Nigeria are all represented here. Financing constraints is a major challenge, and that is where the EU, as our partner, will have to see how they will support the NTF and all the entities, and also establishing a framework of bringing all the stakeholders and key gatekeepers